Hi everyone, welcome to our presentation on knowledge distillation for wireless edge learning. I am Abu Shafi Muhammad Mahdi Jamid and my co-authors are Ahmed Mohammed and Professor Ali El Kamal. In this work, we address the problem of frame error prediction in a wireless environment. It is a very important problem for a wireless environment because if we can predict when a frame transmission might fail due to prevailing channel conditions, we can tune the transmission and avoid the frame error. Here we present a block diagram of the collaborative spectrum sharing network from where we get our data. There are a total of 5 collaborative intelligent radio networks that share the spectrum with each other, and the target here is to maximize the throughput while maintaining minimum performance among all nodes. This kind of arrangement was used in DARPA Spectrum Collaboration Challenge 2, where one of our teams participated and we got data from that team, and here we got access to data from one of the CIRNs, Collaborative Intelligent Radio Networks. It was a very challenging environment. There were environments like rural networks, there were environments like urban networks, networks for firefighters and so on. So there were a total of 18 million frames, and the frame error rate is pretty high, 33%. So a frame error prediction algorithm would be very useful here. Also, there are different phases. We are taking data from considering data from the last phase and last two scrimmages, scrimmage 4 and 5, where the channel reallocation parameters were changed. As we can see here, for each of the collaborative radio networks, there are different software nodes, total of 10 software nodes. So from all the matches that we consider out of these 18 million frames, we have data from 154 nodes for scrimmage 4 and 408 nodes for scrimmage 5. Here are the challenges that we face with this data set. The most important challenge here is to accommodate all the diverse environments that we work in, and that is the main reason why traditional statistical modeling methods are not really suitable here. Another important challenge here is that we have access to a huge amount of data, 18 million frames, and how do we best utilize these data? And finally, also because the environments are very challenging and it's a spectrum sharing network, the modulation, coding scheme, channel allocation, everything changes from time to time. So we need an algorithm that takes everything into account. Fortunately, recent developments in deep learning provide us with exactly that. Deep learning networks need a huge amount of data. They're computationally complex, but they also can be made to be very robust to changes, and there are different implementations of deep learning networks. There are convolutional neural networks, or CNNs, that utilizes spatial correlations, and there are recurrent neural networks like RNN, and that captures long-term temporal correlation. Let us take another look into our setup. We have software radio nodes, and these nodes operate under very diverse local environments in different matches among different cases. So what happens here is that local node data might contain very important information for that specific node. So we want to be able to utilize specific local node data also, and in that case distributed edge learning is quite an enticing prospect. In distributed edge learning, each of the node gets its own uniquely trained network. We want that because in our wireless network it's very diverse. And also another point working in our favor is that right now in edge nodes, for example in mobile phones and everything that we deploy in edge, we have ample processing power. So the problem becomes predicting frame error in diverse wireless environments, and we are going to do it using distributed edge computing. And in this case, the most common edge learning approach is federated averaging. It is a way of federated learning. In federated learning, we have different local nodes which have access to the local data, and they develop a model using that local data, and then they send that data parameters to the cloud. In the cloud, using these data parameters, a global model is developed, and that model is sent back to the local data. The problem that federated averaging in particular has, one of the problems is privacy, because we are sending identifiable information over the air, and this problem is overcome through a new technique called differential privacy federated averaging. The other problem that federated averaging has is that federated averaging works in rounds. So in each round, a subset of the total nodes are selected, and these subsets are used to build the global model, and in the next round some other like local nodes are selected. So it has a problem of being biased towards these selected nodes. So the two major challenges here are generalization and privacy. Because we work in a very diverse wireless environment, we need our network to be generalizable, and also because we are working in a wireless environment and data is traveling over the air, maintaining privacy and designing something that can maintain privacy is very important. The approach to ensure generalization that we take here is called knowledge distillation. In knowledge distillation in the cloud, we take data from all of the individual nodes and use that data to train a powerful model. Then we use that powerful teacher model as a target for student models that are trained in each node uniquely. So each node gets a unique model, but these models are again trained using a teacher model that has access to all of the data. We can already see that there is still the privacy problem remaining. Because we are training using all the data, we think that this one will be generalizable, but we still have that privacy problem remaining. So to solve that problem, there is another technique that we are proposing. We are proposing that instead of using actual data, we can use synthetic data. So when we get local data in student models, we take these data and we use these data to generate synthetic data for each of the nodes, and we use that synthetic data in the cloud. So the major contribution of this work is this. In the cloud, we send synthetic data, but we also use local data. Local data stays in local nodes, and we use them using the following framework. In this framework, we can see that there is two types of data: public data and private data. Public data is synthetic data, and private data is real data for each of the nodes. Public data is produced in each of the nodes independently and then sent to the cloud. The cloud aggregates these synthetic data and then uses that synthetic data to train the teacher model. The teacher model is used to train student models that also have access to the synthetic data. So this is the proposed framework, but we have also added another step here because we have access to real data in the nodes and we want to utilize them. So after the student model is trained using the synthetic data, we transfer the model and train it again using real data which is private to that node. Here is a high-level overview of the overall system. In each of the nodes, we use a technique called synthetic minority oversampling technique, SMOT, to generate synthetic data. These synthetic data are then sent to the cloud and aggregated. The cloud uses the aggregated large database to train its teacher model. The teacher models are sent back, and then these teacher models are used to train the local student models, and the local student models are retrained using local data sets. Now the problem becomes, how do we design the networks that we use in the cloud and also in local nodes? In the cloud, we have access to a huge amount of computational power. So we can design a powerful network that can uncover correlation between spaces, spatial correlation using CNN, convolutional neural networks, and also long-term memory temporal correlations that are uncovered using RNNs. There are different types of RNNs that we can use: LSTM, long short-term memory, GRU, gated recurrent units, but we have chosen simple recurrent units or SRUs because they're very powerful while also being very fast in GPUs. We have described these works in one of our previous papers that is accepted for publication in IEEE networking letters, and also we are using bidirectional simple recurrent units because they provide better performance, but because we are using bidirectional networks, there is a small latency constraint. For local networks in each of the nodes, we want lightweight networks. So for local networks, we are using multilayer perceptrons with stochastic gradient descent optimizer. Also, we are comparing various methods here. So for the methods that are used in local nodes, for example, federated averaging, differential privacy, federated averaging, and knowledge distillation student networks, we are using multi-layer perceptrons. And for the knowledge distillation cloud networks, we are using convolutional, bidirectional, simple recurrent unit-based networks, which is CBS-DNN with Adam Optimizer, that combines the advantage of convolutional networks and recurrent networks. Here we have the overall results. So again, the approaches that we are comparing, the first one is local training, where we use only individual local node data to train a model in the node, and the target for all edge learning models would be to beat this one. Then we have federated averaging, differential privacy federated averaging. Then we have knowledge distillation with real data, KDSCR, knowledge distillation with synthetic data, KDSMOT, and we have our transfer learning with knowledge distillation framework. Because in transfer learning with knowledge distillation framework we are using both synthetic data and also real data, we thought that it would be a good comparison to compare it against an ensemble method that has access to the other three privacy preserving methods, that is local training, differential privacy federated averaging, and knowledge distillation with synthetic data. We can see that so here on the left side, the blue ones are for scrimmage 5, the green ones are for scrimmage 4 lines, because they're quite different. We are presenting their results differently, and we have the red ones, which is the average results. And also there are two types of results for each cases. There is average edge results averaged over each node, and then we have results averaged over total number of frames. We can see that in some of the cases, for example in scrimmage 5 and also in overall results, actually local training outperforms federated averaging, which is not acceptable at all for a distributed edge learning case. And also we can see that when we go from federated averaging to differential privacy federated averaging, there is a drop in performance, that is a privacy penalty. But when we go from knowledge distillation with real data to knowledge distillation with synthetic data, that drop is not there. Here we divide the edges based on the frame error percentage. So there are edges with very low frame error, the leftmost ones, where almost all of the methods perform well, all of the proposed methods and the compared methods outperform local training. And then there is when you go to the right, then there are cases where there is very high frame error, the environment is very challenging, and the data to each of the local nodes are unique, so local training performs better than the other methods. But even at the rightmost case, we can see that the proposed transfer learning with knowledge distillation method outperforms other methods. Federated averaging based methods in this case fail, and we can see the advantage of training first with synthetic data and then transferring, because our transfer learning with knowledge distillation method here outperforms the knowledge distillation with synthetic learning, KDSMOT. Finally, we compared the performance of local training with different edge learning methods. Here the expectation for edge learning methods is that they will outperform the local training, but it doesn't happen in all of the nodes. So here we have a node by node analysis, total node analysis, and in this case we can see that there are some catastrophic failures for federated averaging, where the federated averaging performance is worse than the local training performance by more than 15%, 15 to 25%, and then more than 25%. These kind of catastrophic failures are much rarer in knowledge distillation based methods and also ensemble methods. Here is another important interesting observation is that federated averaging based methods sometimes perform very well compared to local training methods. So there is scope for further research here that utilizes the advantages of federated learning and knowledge distillation based methods and combines them. The contribution that this work has is the development of a privacy-preserving, generalizable edge learning framework for wireless networks, and this network is robust across wireless nodes and different wireless environments. The dataset for this work is available for public use in GitHub, and our source code is also publicly available, so that anyone can utilize these, build on these, and reproduce the results. Thank you.